Skaria versus the Govt of State of Kerala and ANR. Welcome to NPA Infracon, YouTube channel, your destination for quality civil engineering education videos. In today's session, we will delve into a detailed case study on Skaria versus the Govt of State of Kerala and ANR. We will be exploring a series of questions and answers to help you better understand the intricacies of this case. We are excited to present this case study to you, and we hope that it will provide valuable insights into the legal aspects related to departmental construction work and civil engineering. Make sure to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on upcoming videos and educational content. Let's begin our discussion with your host, Rudy. Stay tuned for an engaging and informative session. Question: what is this case is for? Explain in detail. This case, Skaria versus the Govt of State of Kerala and ANR, involves a dispute between Skaria, the plaintiff, and the government of the State of Kerala, the defendant, regarding a construction project. The plaintiff, who was a contractor, was hired by the government to execute a construction project with specific terms and conditions outlined in a contract. However, the plaintiff claimed that the government had breached the contract by causing delays, not supplying necessary materials on time, and failing to make payments promptly. The plaintiff filed a lawsuit seeking recovery of the amount due for the work done, damages for breach of contract, a declaration that he was not liable to complete the remaining work, and a refund of the security deposit and retention money. The trial court partially ruled in favor of the plaintiff, awarding him a specific amount for the work done and damages for breach of contract. However, the government appealed the decision, arguing that the plaintiff, as an independent contractor, was not entitled to maintain a suit for rendition of accounts. The High Court dismissed the plaintiff's appeal, siding with the government's arguments and ruling that the suit was not maintainable. The case ultimately reached the Supreme Court, which analyzed the evidence and legal arguments presented. The Supreme Court overturned the High Court's decision, finding that the plaintiff had valid claims against the government for breach of contract. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the plaintiff, awarding him the amount decreed by the trial court for the work done and damages for breach of contract. In conclusion, the case involved disputes over contract breaches, payment for work done, and the contractor's rights in a construction project, with the Supreme Court ultimately ruling in favor of the contractor. Question: which are the evidence and legal arguments presented by both parties in High Court and Supreme Court? How both court has analyzed it. In the High Court and the Supreme Court, the evidence and legal arguments presented by both parties revolved around the following key points. The appellant, Skaria, as the contractor, argued that delays, defaults, and breaches committed by the Department of State of Kerala prevented him from completing the construction work within the specified timeframe. He provided evidence such as letters requesting the supply of materials, the delay in payments, and the inordinate delays in approving levels for the road formation work. The Department of State of Kerala, on the other hand, contended that they had made arrangements to supply materials according to the progress of the work at the site to safeguard the government's interests. They argued that there was no breach on their part and that the materials were issued progressively in accordance with the progress of the work. The trial court analyzed the evidence presented by both parties and found in favor of the appellant, holding that the department had committed breaches by causing delays in supplying materials, approving levels, and making payments. The trial court also found that the appellant was justified in refusing to complete the work due to these breaches. However, the High Court reversed the findings of the trial court, stating that there was no breach on the part of the department based on the argument that materials were issued according to the progress of the work. The High Court did not consider the initial delays in supplying materials and approving levels, as highlighted by the appellant. The Supreme Court, in its analysis, reinstated the findings of the trial court, emphasizing the evidence of initial delays in supplying materials and approving levels. The Supreme Court concluded that the department had indeed breached its obligations, justifying the appellant's refusal to complete the work. The Supreme Court also addressed the court's decree for the value of the work done and damages for breach, adjusting it in accordance with the evidence and legal arguments presented. Overall, the courts examined the evidence, arguments, and legal principles to determine whether the department had committed breaches and whether the appellant was entitled to the relief sought. Question: Provide the details, explanation, and justifications of each points mentioned in cases. Point I. The relationship between the appellant and the state government was that of an independent contractor and employer. The court deliberated on whether the appellant, as an independent contractor, had the legal standing to file a suit for rendition of accounts against the employer. It was determined that in this context, the right to claim rendition of accounts did not apply, as there was no statutory provision, fiduciary relationship, or equitable grounds to support such a claim. The contractor's remedy for non-payment for work done was to sue for the value of work done. Point 2. The High Court had dismissed the suit in its entirety on the basis that a suit for accounts by a contractor was not maintainable. However, the Supreme Court disagreed with this approach, emphasizing that the appellant had the right to seek a decree for the amount claimed for the work done, despite the accounting claim being rejected. The High Court's dismissal was considered unjustified, and the appellant was entitled to a decree for at least the amount claimed in the suit. Point 3. The trial court had found clear evidence of breaches committed by the respondents, citing delays in supplying materials, delayed payments, and other breaches that prevented the contractor from completing the work. However, the High Court overturned these findings without proper consideration of the evidence. The Supreme Court reinstated the trial court's findings and held that the respondents had indeed breached their obligations under the contract. Point I. The Supreme Court upheld the trial court's findings regarding the amounts due to the appellant. The court confirmed that the appellant was entitled to a decree for the value of the work done, damages for breach, but not the refund of security deposit and retention amounts. The appellant's entitlement to costs on the decreed amount was also acknowledged. These explanations and justifications provide a detailed insight into the legal reasoning behind each point addressed in the case. Question: The appellant, as an independent contractor, had the legal standing to file a suit for rendition of accounts against the employer. What is that meaning? In the context of the case, the statement that the appellant, as an independent contractor, had the legal standing to file a suit for rendition of accounts against the employer means that the contractor had the right to demand a formal statement of accounts from the employer regarding the work done, materials used, payments made, and any outstanding dues. Typically, rendition of accounts refers to the process of presenting a detailed account or statement of financial transactions between parties to ensure transparency and clarity on the financial aspects of a contract or agreement. As an independent contractor, the appellant had the legal entitlement to seek an account of the financial dealings related to the construction work contract with the employer, State Government of Kerala. This would involve verifying the accuracy of measurements, payments, material supply, delays, and any other financial aspects relevant to the contract between the parties. Therefore, the legal standing to file a suit for rendition of accounts empowered the contractor to request and obtain a thorough account of financial details concerning the project to ensure fair and accurate compensation for the work completed and any related damages or breaches by the employer. Question: What is meaning of the High Court had dismissed the suit in its entirety on the basis that a suit for accounts by a contractor was not maintainable? The phrase, "the High Court had dismissed the suit in its entirety on the basis that a suit for accounts by a contractor was not maintainable," means that the High Court rejected the entire lawsuit because it determined that the specific type of legal action seeking an account of financial transactions by a contractor against the employer was not permissible or valid. In this case, the High Court concluded that the contractor's claim for accounts against the employer, state government, was not legally sustainable. As a result, the High Court decided to dismiss the entire lawsuit rather than considering or addressing other claims or aspects of the case put forth by the appellant. The key point here is that the High Court's ruling was based on the belief that the contractor's specific claim for accounts was not a valid legal ground for the lawsuit to proceed, leading to the dismissal of the entire case. Question: Describe detail suit by the appellant. Background: Casey Skaria, as an independent contractor, entered into an agreement with the State of Kerala for the execution of a construction project. The appellant alleged that the department's delays, defaults, and breaches had prevented the completion of the work within the stipulated timeframe as per the contract terms. These issues led to a legal dispute between the appellant and the State of Kerala. Nature of the suit. In response to the alleged breaches and delays, the appellant filed a civil suit, OS No. 24 1990, in the subordinate court seeking multiple reliefs. These included recovery of dues. The appellant claimed Rs. 2,000,000 towards the amount due for work done, with an additional request for interest at 18% per annum. Damages for breach. A claim for Rs. 1,000 as damages for breach of contract, along with interest. Declaration and direction. The appellant sought a declaration that he was not liable to complete the remaining work and a direction for the refund of the security deposit and retention money. Valuation of the suit. For court fee purposes, the appellant valued the suit as follows. Relief. I. Valued at Rs. 2,000,000 with a court fee paid of Rs. 19,980. Relief. Chu. Valued at Rs. 1,000 with a court fee paid of Rs. 100. Relief. 3. Valued at Rs. 300 with a court fee paid of Rs. 30. Total claimed amount. Rs. 2,01,300 with a total court fee paid of Rs. 20,110. Defense by the state. The State of Kerala disputed the claims made by the appellant, denying any breaches on their part. They contended that the delays and issues with the project were attributable to the contractor rather than the department. The state also argued that the contractor was not entitled to maintain a suit for the rendition of accounts against them. Judgment. Following a trial, the court partially decreed the suit in favor of the appellant, acknowledging breaches by the State Department. However, the High Court subsequently reversed this decision, dismissing the entire suit primarily on the grounds that a suit for accounts by a contractor was not maintainable, leading to the appellant's appeal to the Supreme Court. This detailed description provides an overview of the legal proceedings and the various claims, defenses, and judgments involved in the appellant's suit against the State of Kerala. Questions. Provide detailed description of defenses and suit filed by government. In the case of Skaria versus the Government of the State of Kerala and ANR, the Government of the State of Kerala, respondent, presented a detailed defense in response to the claims made by Skaria, appellant, an independent contractor. Here is an expanded description of the defenses raised by the government and the suit filed by them. Defenses raised by the government. Denial of breach. The Government of the State of Kerala vehemently denied any breach of contract on their part. They argued that the delays, defaults, and breaches alleged by the appellant were unsubstantiated and misattributed. The government maintained that they fulfilled their contractual obligations and that any issues that arose were due to the contractor's failures rather than the government's actions. Responsibility for delays. In their defense, the government asserted that the delays that occurred during the project were primarily the result of inefficiencies or shortcomings on the part of the contractor, Skaria. They argued that the contractor's inadequate performance and management contributed significantly to the project delays, rather than any fault on the government's side. Contractual obligations. The government emphasized their commitment to complying with the terms and conditions outlined in the contract with Skaria. They contended that they fulfilled their end of the agreement and that any alleged breaches or delays were not a failure of the government to meet their contractual obligations. Rejection of contractors' claims. Furthermore, the government refuted the claims made by Skaria regarding delays in payment, material supply, and breaches of contract. They asserted that the allegations brought forward by the contractor lacked merit and were inconsistent with the facts of the project execution. Suit filed by the government. Response to Skaria's suit. In response to the legal action initiated by Skaria, the Government of the State of Kerala filed a comprehensive defense and counterclaim against the appellant. Their goal was to challenge and disprove the claims made by the contractor and present their version of events surrounding the construction project. Seeking dismissal of claims. The government's suit aimed to request the court to dismiss the claims put forth by Skaria based on the arguments presented in their defense. They endeavored to demonstrate that the alleged breaches and delays were not a result of any wrongdoing on the part of the government, but were rather due to deficiencies in the contractor's performance. Assertion of compliance. Throughout their suit, the government stressed their adherence to the terms and conditions of the contract with Skaria. They aimed to showcase that any challenges faced during the project were in line with the agreement between the parties and were managed within the scope of the contractual framework. Claim for damages. Additionally, it is possible that the government's counterclaim sought damages or compensatory relief for any losses or additional costs incurred as a consequence of the alleged breaches or delays purportedly caused by the contractor, Skaria. The claim for damages may have been made to offset any adverse impacts on the project resulting from the contractor's alleged shortcomings. In conclusion, the government of the state of Kerala presented a robust and intricate defense strategy against the claims brought forth by Skaria. Their responses were crafted to challenge the allegations made by the contractor, assert their compliance with the contract terms, and potentially pursue damages to address any impacts from the alleged breaches or delays. Question: provide details of civil engineering issues provided in case by both parties. In the case of Skaria versus the Govt of State of Kerala and ANR, several civil engineering issues were raised by both parties. One of the main issues pertained to delays in the supply of essential materials, such as cement and steel, by the department responsible for the construction project. The contractor, Skaria, alleged that these delays significantly impacted the progress of the work, hindering his ability to complete the project within the stipulated time frame. The department, however, argued that the materials were issued progressively in accordance with the pace of work at the site to protect the government's interests. Additionally, there were disagreements regarding the approval of formation levels required for road construction, with the contractor asserting that delays in this approval process impeded the roadwork. Delays in making on-account payments for completed work were also a point of contention, as well as disputes over the contractor being asked to perform work beyond the originally agreed-upon scope. These issues led to accusations of breaches of contract obligations by both parties, with the contractor claiming that the department's actions prevented timely completion of the project and affected the overall quality of work. Overall, the case involved a detailed examination of various civil engineering aspects, including project planning, material supply, work progress monitoring, and contractual obligations. The disputes revolved around the responsibilities, liabilities, and costs associated with completing the construction work and addressing the delays and disruptions that occurred during the project. Question: explain in detail regarding to disagreements regarding the approval of formation levels required for road construction. In the case of Skaria versus the Govt of State of Kerala and ANR, one of the key disagreements between the contractor, Skaria, and the department responsible for the construction project was related to the approval of formation levels required for road construction. Formation levels refer to the specified elevations or heights at which the road surface should be constructed, ensuring proper alignment, gradients, and overall quality of the road. According to Skaria, there were significant delays in the approval of formation levels by the department, which had a direct impact on the progress of the road construction work. The contractor claimed that without the finalized formation levels, they were unable to proceed with certain critical aspects of the roadwork, such as earthwork and metalling, which are essential for establishing a stable and durable road surface. The contractor alleged that despite repeated requests and communications made to the department regarding the approval of formation levels, there was a prolonged delay in providing the necessary approvals. This delay not only caused interruptions in the construction schedule, but also resulted in inefficiencies and setbacks in the project timeline. The disagreement over the approval of formation levels highlights the importance of timely decision-making and coordination between the contracting parties in construction projects. Delays in obtaining critical approvals, such as formation levels, can lead to inefficiencies, cost overruns, and project delays, ultimately affecting the overall quality and success of the construction work. In the legal proceedings, this disagreement over the approval of formation levels was likely a central point of contention in determining whether the department had fulfilled its contractual obligations and responsibilities towards the contractor. The resolution of this issue would have significant implications for the outcome of the case and the allocation of liabilities and costs between the parties involved in the construction project. Question: why the Govt? of State of Kerala and ANR has to provide construction material to KC Skaria. In a construction project where KC Skaria was contracted as the construction contractor, the Government of State of Kerala, represented by the department responsible for the project, had the obligation to provide construction materials, such as cement and steel, to KC Skaria for several reasons. Contractual agreement. The provision of construction materials to the contractor is typically specified in the contractual agreement between the contracting parties. In this case, the department, as the employer, was responsible for providing the necessary materials as agreed upon in the contract with KC Skaria. Project requirements. Construction projects often require specific materials, like cement and steel, for the execution of various construction activities such as foundation works, structural elements, and reinforcement. The department was responsible for ensuring that these materials were available to enable the contractor to carry out the work effectively. Smooth project progress. Timely supply of construction materials is essential for the smooth progress of the construction project. Delays in material supply can cause disruptions, work stoppages, and overall project delays. Therefore, it was the department's responsibility to provide the materials in a timely manner to facilitate the progress of the project. Contractual obligations. The contract between the department and KC Skaria likely outlined the responsibilities of each party, including the provision of materials. Failing to provide the necessary materials as per the contract could constitute a breach of the contractual obligations by the department. Quality and compliance. The department's provision of construction materials ensured that the quality and specifications required for the project were met. By supplying the designated materials, the department contributed to the compliance with project standards and specifications. Overall, the department's responsibility to provide construction materials to KC Skaria was crucial for the successful execution of the construction project, adherence to contractual agreements, and the efficient and timely completion of the work as per the project requirements. Question: describe the detail of Act, Indian Code are being used in this case. In the case described in the PDF document, various Indian laws and codes were referred to and applied. Here is a summary of the acts and codes mentioned in the document. Civil Procedure Code, CPC. The Civil Procedure Code is a procedural law used in India for the regulation of the procedure to be followed in civil courts. It sets out the rules and regulations for how civil cases are to be conducted, including the filing of suits, presentation of evidence, and issuance of decrees. Kerala Court Fees and Suits Valuation Act, 1959. This act specifically deals with court fees and the valuation of suits in the state of Kerala. It provides guidelines on how court fees should be calculated based on the value of the suit and the reliefs sought. Contract Act. The Contract Act lays down the legal principles governing contracts in India. It defines the rights, duties, and obligations of parties entering into a contract and provides remedies in case of breach of contract. Various other laws and codes. The document also mentions laws relating to administration suits, dissolution of partnership, principal-agent relationships, trusts, and minors, among others. These laws are relevant to the specific legal issues being addressed in the case, such as the right to claim rendition of accounts, obligations under contracts, and remedies available to different parties. Overall, the application of these laws and codes helped in determining the rights and liabilities of the parties involved in the case, and guided the court in reaching decisions regarding breach of contract, entitlement to payments, and other legal issues under consideration.